Rachel, I think. Am I correct?
Yes. So yeah, thank you for that. So I think you should be able to see my screen now. So I will be talking now about the energy savings that we have achieved, our student engagement, and recommend some further recommendations for student-facing campaigns and student engagement. And I'll also be handing over to Dave to talk about the energy dashboard as part of that. So, as Joanna mentioned earlier, Saves2 had 2 campaigns. And in this section, I'm going to be focusing on student switch off, which is within university dormitories. And this campaign ensures that students living in dormitories who are usually not paying their own bills, their bills are included, and no matter how much energy they use, so that these students still receive a foundation of energy literacy whilst living in the university accommodation. And this not only reduces the carbon emissions and cost of operating residential buildings in universities, but also equips students with the skills and knowledge that they need to make conscious energy decisions in the future when living in the private rented sector and paying their own bills, so saving them money and carbon in the future. So Joanna gave an overview of our activities earlier. Student Switch Off, it's an energy saving competition between the dormitories at each university taking part in Saves2. It's an annual cycle over the academic year, and we aim to engage students in different ways over the year to motivate them and empower them with positive energy behaviours. We use volunteers, we have volunteer training to equip on the ground student ambassadors. We have regular online competitions for individuals. We have targeted and timely communications and energy updates, and an end of year award for the winning dormitory. And energy savings were achieved through every academic year of Saves2. And you can see from the table here the savings that were achieved each year in terms of gigawatt hours, percentage, and carbon savings. So to find out our energy savings, we established a baseline energy use for each dormitory and used a specially developed energy dashboard to calculate the energy savings, which Dave is going to talk about in a bit. The baseline energy was pre-intervention wherever possible, so before we engage students in saving energy through Saves2. And throughout the project, regular energy data was collected for each dormitory and compared to the baseline data, meaning that each dormitory was actually competing against its own baseline usage in the competition. From the table, you can see that there's the actual energy savings as well as overall savings, including extrapolation. And this is because the number of months of available data varied from university to university and dormitory based on student occupancy and data access. So some extrapolation was done to account for the missing months. And this was done by upscaling the data we had available based on the average savings from the months that had accurate data. So you can see the savings for the 3 years. And in total, we had a 6.78% average energy saving, 8.18 gigawatt hours saved, and 2,373 tonnes of carbon dioxide saving. And throughout the project, students were engaged in our activities. So we had a number of different activities throughout the year, and you can see the total students that have been engaged in each of those activities. And what's really important is adapting our campaign throughout the project cycle, because student trends and opinions change each academic year. And so to maintain engagement, we needed to stay, to stay appealing. For example, in year 1, 2017-18, we relied on competitions that were based on uploading a photo or a selfie on Facebook, which had been really popular in Saves 1, but was losing popularity and effectiveness. So we adapted the campaign to offer other types of competitions, such as tagging, sharing tips, which increased our competition entries in year 2 and 3. So our engagement was both online and in person on campuses. From a survey we conducted in the UK this year, the most popular way in which students heard about Student Switch Off was through email. And posters in accommodation was also popular. So face-to-face options like attending a freshers fair at the start of the year to speak to students when they arrive was also popular, as well as via residential assistance. And so we utilise a mix of these different touch points to reach a wide range of students who will engage with us in different ways over the year. And the benefits of in-person versus online is really interesting, because when coming from the right sources, online can be really effective. And it does vary from country to country. So the effectiveness of email, social media varies a lot. So for example, in some countries in the project, surveys were conducted by distributed as paper copies face-to-face. In Romania and Greece, I believe, also utilised paper copies of the survey. But for some, email was a really effective tool, such as in the UK. And for some, Facebook was the key communication channel, but for some others, other social media was more effective. So in Ireland, Snapchat was really popular, but we in the UK didn't have much success with Snapchat. So it really varies from country to country, and these adjustments made between countries and even within different universities within countries really maximizes the impact. And of course, in our final year, the pandemic affected the campaign. Local lockdowns closed down many campuses and prevented our staff from engaging with students face to face. So, but even aside from the pandemic, a lot of our communications have been online or remotely through student volunteers within the dormitories. And when conducting things online, having a personal approach has been really helpful, even when conducting these online activities. So we have a dedicated dormitory coordinator at each university, and that the students can recognise and get to know over the year. The emails are from that person, and we interact with them on social media. And the dormitory coordinator is there to support and provide advice. They're not management from the university telling students to switch off and follow rules. It's really about having that personable approach. So that element is really important for us. So from this slide, you can see that students' future energy behaviour can be impacted by SAVES2. So this graph here, students taking part in Student Switch Off at the end of year 3 in 2019-20 were asked to select statements that best describe what they will be, the way they'll be living when they move out of their halls of residence in relation to energy saving. And so you can see overall, 34% of those surveyed stated that I think I'll be doing a lot more to save energy. And another 34% said I think I'll be doing a bit more to save energy. So just 1% of those questions reported that I think I'll be doing a bit less to save energy, and less than 0.5% I think I'll be doing a lot less to save energy. So there's some further graphs that show the spillover effect that can be seen from the Student Switch Off campaign when students move into the private rented sector. So here's some more data that we collected. The responses of students who were aware of Student Switch Off campaign through living in dormitories in past years, but in the last academic year were living in the private rented sector, were compared against students who had not been previously aware of Student Switch Off. So they hadn't previously had that engagement in energy whilst living in dormitories. And the difference in energy awareness levels of these two groups are assessed to allow us to study any occurrences of rebound or spillover effects of the campaign in dormitories. So from this graph, how well informed do you feel about the following? Respondents who were previously aware of Student Switch Off campaign felt better informed about all issues that involved energy and environmental performance of their home compared to those who were unaware of Student Switch Off. And in this chart, you can see that a higher share of those who were aware of the Student Switch Off campaign took actions to reduce their energy costs while in their current accommodation, compared to those who had not been aware of the Student Switch Off campaign, except for approaching their landlord to buy more energy efficient appliances. And from this one, you can see that with smart metering, 83% of those who were aware of the Student Switch Off campaign stated that they had heard of smart meters before, compared to 48% who had not been exposed to student switch off. And 23% of those who were aware of the campaign, which is 8% more than those who were unaware of the campaign, stated that they had a smart meter in their current accommodation. And in terms of energy performance certificates, 74% of those who were aware of student switch off campaign stated that they had heard of energy performance certificates before, which is 25% more than those who were unaware of the student switch off campaign. And lastly, 45% of those who are aware of the student switch off campaign stated they saw the EPC of their current property before they moved in, compared to 25% who were previously unaware of student switch off. So these charts show the spillover effect that this student switch off campaign can have on students once they do move into the private rented sector. And I'm going to hand over to Dave now to talk about the energy dashboard. Have we?
Okay,
thanks. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. The statistics that have been provided, I don't have any of those, but you know, Jade, Basilis, and Rachel have provided some interesting statistics. So I'm just going to go through our thought process in constructing a web-based dashboard whereby students can engage with actual energy use in their, not only in their universities, but in their halls of residence or their accommodation. We realized that we needed a very simple way for students to see feedback from their efforts. So that's the front page of the dashboard, basically, with the participating universities at the time. And that was the overall goal, really, to you know, to increase that engagement. So we realized that this really is a supplement to the on the ground campaign. So we needed to somehow connect those real world activities to the actual outcomes in energy savings. You can see there on the left, there's a mobile version. Well, it's the same. I won't go into detail, but we realized that we can create a mobile friendly version that students can save to their home screen, and it works more or less like an app in the same code base as we used to create the website, which is how we did it. It's called a responsive web app, basically. So you can see there how easy it is to see on your mobile the current leaderboard for your university. That's the University of York there. And the top three are kind of isolated there. And there's you can have a summary if the university wants this, of the total amount saved. You can see it's 11.3% there. So the idea was to create this kind of, you know, friendly competition, if you like. It's not an aggressive process where people are trying to beat each other, although I think in some cases people did use tricks to do that. One of the main things that we were listening to feature requests from both you know, energy champions and the sort of users of the university users as well. So there was an ongoing process of continual development. This wasn't just some software that we delivered and then we've finished with it. The idea was that we were getting feedback all the time, and we had several meetings throughout the campaign and throughout the project to implement that feedback, take a break, and sort of gather what was and what wasn't working. And so the process, or the software, has evolved over time hugely. So, oh, that's a bit of fun. We always use the University of Kittens as a test university. And that's an example, really, that we just make sure that everything's working. So we realized, I mean, of course, web-based software has the central part to play, you know, when you're working with students. The little bit of research there is obviously most 18 to 24-year-olds use their mobile to access the web primarily. Obviously they're using the laptops as well, but it was no worry to us because we designed something to be flexible at any screen size. We did have some problems implementing it on public screens because they just run and run, but we found from our Google Analytics that some of the public screens were pretty well viewed, actually. They just kept going. And so because they're there in the university, students tend to sort of see them in the background, and it kind of goes in subconsciously. So a couple of universities asked for a specific public screen display, which we provided. This is mobile access to the web by age. You can see here that the youngest sector are accessing primarily, that's the dark blue there, primarily by the smartphone, and then laptop and tablets, and it kind of goes down like that. And you can see the ages there. So obviously we had to, put that first. So 96% are accessing the web on their smartphone. And the other facet was that students wanted to see how well their own particular accommodation was doing. So we allowed them to drill down further. So on the app, if you click on one of these, it brings up an individual graph, which shows this is the ideal is the yellow line there. This is what we're aiming at. When the energy consumption goes over, it goes red. And when it goes under, you get this nice green patch where you can see that compared to what we are using as a baseline, which quite typically would be the last year's energy usage, they're actually managing to save energy there. So energy managers appreciated this as well. So although, that's the front end that most people use, this the mobile version there, if people want to dig deeper, they can actually see the result of their efforts, basically. Obviously, there's a little bit of a time delay. Some universities were able to provide, quite fine-grained energy usage, like sort of even up to a quarter of an hour. But we leveled it out to, in the background to more or less daily. And some universities couldn't supply energy readings, that were any more fine-grained than a week, or even in some cases 2 weeks. But mostly this was accommodated for, and the campaign was supplemented by whatever whatever energy we had access to. We adapted the display to show, the real-time energy usage. At the end of Saves 1, we were obliged to, because people wanted to carry on, we had to set up a spin-out company, which is called Ecovisum Limited. And we're the ones who are now, well, there's two of us, we're the ones who are now providing this energy dashboard. We also provide something for another Horizon 2020 funded project called Edinet, which does a similar job. So there's a final sort of display of all of the different devices that you can see how the energy monitoring software adapts to different screen sizes. And incidentally, we won an award for this a couple of years ago, or was it last year? I can't remember. For energy data innovation. So I'm kind of done. I'm going to come out of this and
thanks Dave. And based on that and the other results in the Student Switch Off campaign, I've just got a few recommendations to share with you. So these are recommendations for engaging students in energy campaigns and projects. And we've learnt a lot through Saves 2 with regards to engaging students in the issue of energy use, sustainability and energy poverty. And if you work with students or hope to engage students in these areas, here are our recommendations. So create open dialogue. We always try to create open dialogue about what students want to see in the world, and we give them suggested actions, but we're open to conversations about wider issues such as political issues, local issues, personal issues that may affect the way they use energy or feel about the campaign. So it's really important to go in with this open attitude, where talk to students about what they want and what they want to see, and listen to their concerns and understand where they're at and why they are engaging or not engaging in certain things. Utilize the habit discontinuity hypothesis, because life course changes disrupt old habits and may create a mood for more change. So, for example, one that we utilize is moving to university for the first time. And studies have shown that behaviour change was more likely if participants recently had moved house. So reaching students at these key moments of change is really critical to the success, and something that Saves 2 has really capitalised on. Student Switch Off captures engaging those students from the kind of first week they move into university accommodation, which is key to starting those energy discussions really early on. And to really understand that students are non-homogeneous across countries, but even within countries and within campuses. So it's important to provide a range of different entry points for different types of students. With our campaigns, we have as simple as entering a competition on social media to volunteering time and becoming an ambassador for the campaign. And we reach students who have very different interests and different entry points, and that's really important. It's important to meet students where they're at in terms of knowledge and motivation. So some students will come into it as climate activist experts and will have a very different opinion to students who have never even thought about this area and never engaged with energy saving before. And to conduct research to find out more about your students, which is something that we've done throughout Saves2 and has been really important to adapting the campaign and continually improving. So your student experiences are going to be really different over time, so keep evaluating your approach. Each new year group that comes through will have different preferences and opinions, and it's important for campaigns engaging students to remain agile and adapt to changing opinions. Keep messaging simple. So Saves2 focuses on 4 main energy asks, 4 main energy tips. So create a simple and clear message with practical asks of your target audience. Make it easy for people to engage with your project and not have to seek out lots of further information. And the next point is to ensure your information is coming from a trusted source. And that's a real USP of Saves2, is that we are a trusted source of information, as well as the project staff often being trusted sources, such as in the UK, we're the National Union of Students representing students, and also in Ireland, the Union of Students in Ireland. We also use peer-to-peer communication, so work closely with students' unions, accommodation teams, residential assistants, and students themselves acting as volunteers in the campaign, which we'll hear a bit more about in the next section about the peer-to-peer communication. And it's important to understand that students care and prizes aren't always the answer. So the reasons students gave for being more energy conscious vary between countries, again, highlighting the need for tailored approaches. But when asked why they save energy, only 2% of students, student survey respondents said it was because they win prizes. And because it's the right thing to do was selected by 50% of respondents, and it helps reduce global warming was selected by 47% of participants. So it's really important to understand that a lot of students care about these issues. We found that students in some countries to be much more engaged with a climate focused message, which also brings in other elements of sustainability. So not just energy, but also thinking about the wider issues around sustainability. So that message around climate can be really helpful, as well as a competition focused message. And so we include the different messages in different channels, again, depending which type of students we're trying to reach. So linking back to the dashboard and providing feedback is really important, and linking with Dave's comments, to link what the climate message, what I was saying just now about the climate message, we sometimes feedback carbon savings, putting into real life examples. So for example, your dormitory saved enough for X number of flights from Manchester to New York to motivate students in that way. So these are our recommendations from our Student Switch Off campaign. It is really important to engage students when they're not exposed to energy poverty, to create this catalyst for them taking action when they do end up being in the private rented sector. So I'm going to now hand over to 2 of our student ambassadors from the Technical University of Crete. We've got a Q&A section at the end, so Dave and I will be happy to answer any questions